Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys here today. And I wanted to talk about Jalen Tolbert and specifically his upcoming sophomore season and what should we expect? Is it a breakout season type of thing? What should a breakout season really look like for Tolbert given his situation and really what's in store for him, right? Because there is a spectrum when it comes to Tolbert on how you view him in this fan base. There are those that absolutely loathe him, think that he should be cut and he's a bust. And then you have those that think that he has promise and he could be something at some point with the Cowboys. And I think a lot of it stems from what happened last year, right? The Cowboys did nothing to address the wide receiver spot. You add Jalen Tolbert, they put this immense pressure on him, and on top of that, the option routes did not really help him ease himself into the NFL, and he didn't really get a whole lot of opportunity, and when he did, he was just, it's not good, to say the least. And we all know the infamous moment in the Green Bay game where he lined off sides on offense. That is embarrassing, but it's another year, a new offensive coordinator, and hopefully something to help him out. The option routes are to be gone, hopefully, and I think that we need to temper our expectations when it comes to Jalen Tolbert, because now Brandon Cooks is here, and we're going to talk about specifically Michael Gallup in a separate video and what we could expect there, but you look at the hierarchy of the Cowboys receiving core. You got CeeDee Lamb, the bona fide number one of the team. All-pro, we know what we got there. You added Brandon Cooks. Now, with Brandon Cooks, where he lands, right now I think he's 2 in front of Gallup until Gallup can show what he can be. And this is where you look at Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert, I believe, is going to be wide receiver 4 or higher to 3. Because it's going to come down to what happens really with Gallup, right? And to put it bluntly, if Gallup is who he thinks he is and what he's saying, that he's back, Tolbert is going to be relegated to wide receiver 4. And that's cool with me because when you look at it, right? If this Cowboys team and the wide receiving core hits on all cylinders, you have a nice set of your 4 receivers in Tolbert, Lamb, Gallup, Cooks. And the big thing, too, is that I'm not looking for this dude to be the Gallup replacement. I'm not asking him to be possibly a Cooks replacement if things hit the fan there. I'm asking for him to be, at this point in time, the Cedric Wilson replacement. And you might be asking, well, what kind of stats did Cedric Wilson put up in Dallas? In his career year, which was in 2021, he put up the following stat line. He had 45 receptions, 602 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And the big thing is that, do I think Tolbert is going to get a stat line like that? I think it's going to be somewhere between 400 to 600 yards, 3 to 5 touchdowns, and between 30 to 40 receptions. That's what I'm kind of looking at for Tolbert. But this is a huge year for him because when you look at the track record of where the Cowboys are at, you know for the next 2 seasons, it's going to be Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup because they touched Gallup's contract. You brought in Cooks and you redid his deal to stretch it out for 2 years. And Lamb, you're most likely going to pay him. So I think for Tolbert, what's going to be important here is, can he be a guy that is the Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown level type of guy? And I think he can be that. Like, if we're talking about this in a bubble, retrospectively, that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm not asking for Tolbert to be 2,000 yard receiving, 50 touchdown, or even to scale that back outside of, hyperbole. I'm not asking for the dude to be a 1K receiver or 10 plus touchdowns or 8 touchdowns. That's nice and welcomed if it happens, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a dude that can be productive, and then if you do have something with him, there you go. Because right now, not looking good for him. And I think that if the Cowboys struggle with either Lamb, Cooks, Gallup, like someone hits a bump on the road with their progress, which I think that if we're looking at all three, the most glaring one would most likely be Gallup. But if someone gets injured too, we need the guy to step up. So I think that what's important for him is that if no one in front of him gets hurt, I think that he can ease himself into the league, kind of how Cedric Wilson did. And I was high on Cedric Wilson coming out of Boise State because when you look at it, and I'm looking at these numbers, 2 receptions for 12 yards, like, that's not enough of a sample size to determine how I should view you. And it's 1 year, and you look at how the Cowboys did things, I don't know. Right? Like, we honestly don't know what to look at. But there is a possibility, because speaking of Cedric Wilson, if Cedric Wilson gets cut, and you add him in here, and we'll see how Cedric Wilson goes in Miami, because he could be a post-June 1st cut during the training camp portion somewhere in that time period. And the Cowboys elect to bring him back. That could be trouble for Tolbert depending on where he is on the totem pole. I think that if you can get Tolbert and, Wilson to coexist, that would be pretty badass because now you have solid options outside of the main 3. But that's what scares me is the unknown factor. What is Tolbert going to look like in this new offense? And by the way, comment down below what you think about Jalen Tolbert. Do you think Tolbert is going to break out? And by the way, when I say break out, tell me what you mean by that, because for me, I think a breakout season for Tolbert would be anything above 600, 700 yards, trying to find the words to put that together, and maybe 6 to 7 touchdowns plus. Like, that would be a breakout year for Tolbert. And, if he gets 400 to 600 yards like I'm projecting and 3 to 5 touchdowns and a handful of receptions, that's not breakout to me. That's like, okay, you're doing what I expected you to do as a wide receiver 4. Now, if someone gets hurt and he ends up taking the torch and running with it, that's something to keep in mind if we're looking to extend him down the road. And these are things that you have to start having conversations about, and we'll talk about it over and over and over again. But I'm really excited to see how these wide receivers perform, and I'm really curious to see what the route tree and how the offense is going to operate. Because if Kellen Moore was still around, I think we're having a different conversation about Tolbert, because I think those option routes didn't help. And again, where he was in the hierarchy and the timeline didn't really fit the mold, and that's a bad thing considering the Cowboys really put themselves in that position to begin with. But I digress. Please, if you want to, down below, tell me what you think about this whole Jalen Tolbert situation. Do you think he's going to have a breakout year? Do you think he's going to do, I want to know. Tell me down below. And with that being said, if you guys, again, enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.